Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. This is Kyle Nash, the student of the game of the Duval Dive. Welcome in, Duval Devout. It's time to talk a little bit of action here for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, you can check out my coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars on Fans First Sports Network as always. Hey, it's good to do something else a little bit more uplifting than what the Magic have been doing lately. The other team I cover with Fans First Sports Network, by the way. But hey, enough about that. You have your front office. The work must begin, of course. If you haven't gotten a hold of your life yet, you might have missed Travis D. Holmes talking about James Gladstone being secured as the GM. But if you're a well-read, well-rounded subscriber and enjoyer of Duval Dive content, you would know by now that my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, walked you through that. And listen, there's some optimism here in Duval. There's some pessimism here in Duval. But one is forward-looking, one is forward-thinking, one is looking back. Both are still perfectly valid. We're not judging anything here. But the one thing that everybody agrees is now the work must begin because the healing began when Trent Baalke got fired. I think we all can agree with that. And that's coming from the Niner fan in the room. But hey, listen, enough of this stuff. I've got an extra special show for you. But let me start it off by bringing in the man who helps me do the thing. The man I know is my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, Big Cat Country. What's going on, my man?
Man, living the dream, bro. Living the dream. Like the rest of Duval County on Cloud9 right now, apparently. So, yeah, man.
Apparently, your dream was a dude in a teal suit that's younger than some songs we listen to on the radio every day. That was
Hey, man, don't judge me. We all got weird dreams.
Well, hey, that's a part of the psychology we're not trying to get into, man. But listen, one psychology one accounts for is confidence. And when somebody declares on their handle that they know ball, they better damn well know ball. And this man right here just goes by that mantra. You might know him as TorianoKB, but that KB comes with knowing ball. Toriano, welcome in, my man. ESPN 960 Jacksonville Zone. Good to have you aboard, my guy. I got it backwards, too. I said 960 again. 690. Thank you. ESPN 690.
All good. I appreciate you guys for having me.
And we appreciate you for jumping in, man. Listen, obviously, and I alluded to it earlier, that the real work has begun. James Gladstone's in the place. I know that everybody was up in arms, sort of, about Ian Cunningham not getting that particular gig. I explained why that may be, not only on a previous show here on the Duval Dive, but also on the Fans First Sports Network. That being said, Toriano, your quick thoughts on the Gladstone hire itself and what you think his approach is going to be for the upcoming draft.
Yeah, if you followed any of my coverage either on YouTube or on X, this was my number one option. I thought he was the guy. I thought this was the best option possible. And I think the synchrony that they could have following having some rapport with the Rams, I thought it was a match made in heaven. I know a lot of people were talking about the agent connection. I think, having experience being in the building together made more sense than just having the same agent. So them having similar philosophies and coming from that Rams tree, it was just the perfect marriage for me. So I'm very happy. I'm excited for the future. And I'm very, very excited to have James Gladstone as an evaluator.
Yeah, I can't front on any of that. Now, granted, please don't take it personal that we here on the Duval Dive did take an episode to explain some things you may want to think about before you're hiring James Gladstone. But hey, Gladstone was clearly an excellent pick. And I will say this, over and above the stuff he said at his press conference, Travis brought in a clip here that probably is my favorite thing about his point of view to the team, and it'll be relevant to our conversations moving forward. Let me go ahead and play that.
I don't think we've seen the best of Trevor, and I'm really excited for Liam to get a chance to work with him, support him, and really bring the tools that he has in his arsenal to life. And I think it starts by the protection, right? Making sure that he feels like he's got as much time to work with as possible, and also that he's comfortable with the pass catchers. And so I think through that lens, he's going to feel that change in both the operation schematically and then the personnel that we invite into the building. But I do think that by addressing the interior, that setting the dish for a quarterback is something that can be really helpful to their success. Where it stands right now, I think we'll prioritize positions that really are across the front, both offensively and defensively, and those that put points on the board. That's where my mind goes when you ask a question like that, and beyond it, we'll continue to round out.
So, listen, from moment one there, he says probably my favorite thing out of anything I've heard from him we haven't seen the best of Trevor Lawrence yet. And I really think there's an element and a modicum of truth where the question comes. By the way, continues to talk about the offensive line, but does he call it the pocket? No, he says setting a dish for Trevor Lawrence. He's talking O-line and he's making food references. That's what I'm talking about. With all that being said, here's the part where I'm coming to you, Toriano. If there's a piece that I feel like I'm seeing missing throughout various mock drafts, be them from Mel Kiper, be them from fans on Twitter, even Travis T. Holmes' own, even our good friend Jamal St. Cyr, if I see a commonality missing, it's typically that interior line piece being drafted before the 4th round. Why do you think that might be, and who's somebody you would be looking for in the upcoming combine that would be fit that mold nicely?
I don't know why that's such a commonality. I would ask Travis why he's done that himself. For me, the biggest thing for me has always been addressing it earlier than the 3rd round. I think it's, with having the departure of Brandon Scherf, most likely, it's the only offensive line position where we don't have a clear key starter. So this is a position you have to either address early in free agency or early in the draft. To me, the 2nd round is the sweet spot. You could see a Tyler Booker potentially slide depending on how he does at the combine. You have guys between Gray Zabel. There's some other guys that are moving up the board. For me, Chase Lund is moving up the board. There's plenty of guys at that right guard or left guard spot that could easily be a starter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think it's very key that we watch the guards in this upcoming combine and see who's really going to pop athletically, as well as going back and looking at the tape. So there's been a couple guys for me personally. I would love either a Gray Zabel or a Tyler Booker. Obviously, those are the top 2 guards. I think any Jaguars fan would be happy to see that caliber of a guard coming in here. But obviously, the big name is Gray Zabel currently.
There you go. Set your DVRs and your on-demand devices appropriately for that portion of tomorrow's combine as we do the live stream on Wednesday night as usual. But hey, if you're listening to this, of course, on the podcast, you know who to look up as per Toriano. Now, before Travis responds to your question, I'm going to take one answer off the board that he'd probably lead with. The reason why I didn't pick the lineman sooner is because I'm a DB at heart. Next.
That's a strong argument, bro. That's the strongest of arguments. Hey, man, that ain't my area. But also just in the if I want to take my example from a recent situation with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then I'm going to have to take a quick look at the fact that they also had a hole at right guard last season, and then they brought in the free agent, a stopgap free agent, to 1 year, $3 million contract, and he ended up starting the whole season for them. And that was Ben. I forget his last name. Don't make me lie.
Ben Bredesen.
The gist of it being, but the gist of it wasn't a big contract. It was just, hey, as long as I have a good center, and I believe in my right tackle, I think I'm going to be solid. I think I'm going to be fine. He's shown me that example, so I'm just like, you know what? On the off chance that they did decide to do something like that, go a stopgap free agent. Maybe not a top guy on the market. Maybe not. You're not talking about a Trey Smith out of KC. You're not talking about. Maybe you're talking about. I don't know. The guy from the New York Giants, Greg Van Rotten. How you say his last name?
Greg Van Rotten.
Yeah, like you're just talking a stopgap kind of guy, and then you bring in a later round guy. Like a guy I'm in love with right now. You got Weston Franklin, Georgia Tech, because he's a center and a guard. Someone like that you can get in the mid to late rounds, and I'm like, okay, so now we're cooking with a replacement level guy, mid rounds, later rounds that you can develop in either of those spots. I feel confident with that, especially coming from that Georgia Tech game. That's why I'm always kind of like mid to late rounds, and I'm still fine with it. I wouldn't hate if they end up going heavy in free agency and saying straight up, let's do this. Yeah. But I don't know that that's necessarily what they're going to do. And I guess that depends on their evaluation, kind of what they're going through right now at the combine.
See, and listen, full disclosure for those who saw me on Twitter, I knew that the answer was free agency, but we got show content here, and I don't know if Toriano saw that response or not. So I felt he deserved an answer from the source since he got the opportunity. Let me jump into the comments real quick. First, quick shout coming in from the Back It Up Binge podcast. Good to see you jump in here. And then Yeah, Timmy Devil coming in excited. I've never heard any of our GMs audibly cook like this.
Right.
I mean, how do you cook when your face looks like you're trying to steal somebody's soul while you're talking? Yes, I'm taking Trent Ball. Toriano, I don't know if you've heard. I'm a Niners fan. So not only have I been a follower of this same act, I've had to cover it as a media guy. I done got double whammy by Trent Baalke, so I'm gonna make jokes.
Yeah,
Out there.
It's not even just Trent though. Like it's Trent and the personality, and it's Doug and the similar personality. Like they got the personalities of a wet napkin. Like that's not the kind of guys who you're going to want to try to get the fan base excited. Sure. And to be clear, your job is not to get the fan base excited. You're not in sales. You're not in PR. Your job is to win games, and if you can do that, everything else will fall in place. However,
it's a nice.
These younger guys seem these young guys seem hungry. You got to at least be able to acknowledge that. Like they've talked about it, but also in the ways that they're talking. They're not like saying, "Hey, you know, this might be a 7-win team. Hey, this might be, you know, competing for the playoffs." These dudes are talking about Super Bowl. These dudes are talking about building this thing up and like winning. They're talking it like they walking it. Like, and I'm a fan of that. Like, if you're gonna fail, you better fail trying to be the best. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, and
Toriano upward.
Yeah. So Toriano, got to tell you, Hef comes in with the strong takes sometimes. Don't take it personal. He's just asking questions, but he will not. He's all about Jonah here. It looks like the hidden gem at guard. That's a large human being, by the way, at 339.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Boy. Any particular take on that prospect?
On Jonah, I personally, I've seen his tape at right guard and at right tackle. I believe he is a guard in the NFL. I don't see him as the top hidden gem. To me, the hidden gem currently is probably either Charles Grant or Luke Kandra. If those are guys that you want a hidden gem, I think Luke Kandra coming out of Cincinnati, I think he could be a potential steal. You might be able to get him in the 4th or 5th round. That's a guy that could be a starter coming in day one. I think he's – and Grant has played left, right tackle, and has played in the interior as well. I think he could play all 5 positions similar to Zabel, but he's not getting the same hype. I think athletically, he might be more inclined than Zabel, if I'm honest, looking at the tape.
Fair enough.
So if you want a hidden gem, it's those two.
And I'm seeing another one here. There's a lot of comments here. I want to move on to a different topic. Otherwise, I jump into more of these. But let's Jackson Slater as a name. I don't know how you feel about him in particular. Yeah.
Out of Sacramento State. He's a gamer. Okay. He's a gamer.
See, and that's the reason why we need cats like you, man. Like I have not had a chance to watch as much G5 ball as I used to since UCF is now in the Power Four. So with the black and gold banneret, I don't get as much exposure. So you're saving my day too, bro. Anyways, the real conversation, obviously, though, in at least as far as what Travis and I have talked about, is whether or not the biggest need is defensive tackle. And of course, we got a little something from Gladstone talking about that here.
I think the ability to create disruption is above all else most important, and that type of chaos, it makes it hard for an offensive operation. And so I lean into that more than just about anything, and I think the combination of urgency and explosiveness is something that I certainly prefer. No, we'll be an urgent and explosive bunch on defense. It'll certainly be a shift from what our fans probably saw last year.
James Gladstone with that speech, Walter White with meth. Both dudes cooking. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So, and listen, I know my DB friend here is going to, hold his laugh and maybe even turn red and maybe throw something off camera. I don't know. But at day's end, I feel like the volume of improvement this defense will see, first of all, by not rotating every 30 seconds and taking the best players off the field on 3rd down. We don't have to get in that right now. But I think the reality that one good plug up the middle cancels so much run progression that you're going to see from basically any opponent. And the DB core in the meantime has the problem of having a lot more holes to fill while also having to somehow solve for injury problems. I don't know. But do you live in the camp that the biggest team need overall is defensive tackle?
I do lean into it, especially because we're not seeing the same pressure rate. I think we were 31st or 32nd in pressure rate coming from the defensive tackle position. That is atrocious, and especially how the NFL is aligned right now. You want to be able to rush 3, 4, 5 guys, and if you can't rush from the middle, Josh Hines Allen and Travon Walker, they're not getting there. And with the weight that they had to put on over the offseason last season with Ryan Nielsen, you could see that edge that they had, that bend that they had previously was not there. So if you can't get guys up the middle, you're not getting the bend. You're not getting any push from the interior to push the quarterback forward.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and what's the shortest path to the quarterback? It's that A gap right there in the middle.
A gap.
You got to adapt that up. Travis,
I'm with you. I'm with you. I am.
here it comes.
I mean, I am who I am. I'm sorry. This is what it is. I actually do think that I know you guys expect me to say, hey, no, defensive back is our biggest need, blah, 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 because I'm a defensive back and whatever. But nah, in reality, the best thing that can help this secondary is an aggressive and urgent and violent front. Like the Minnesota Vikings have shown us that. The old, Rams have shown us this. The Eagles, I mean, really are showing us this in this past season. So you don't have to be a perfect secondary if you can find just load up, just give them waves and waves of violence up front. Like I think that'd be a reasonable expectation. However, after saying all that, we still do have a pretty big hole at that other corner outside of Tyson Campbell, and that is a big thing if you're adding to the fact that you don't know what's happening with the safety room. Fortunately for us, safety is not like something where you can historically get a really dang good safety in the second, third, fourth, fifth round often. If you're just talking to a guy who's going to roam in the back of the field. So that might be the route to go, especially with the fact that the Jaguars have so many draft picks. And also the same thing would add to the cornerback situation because it's not bare. It's not a barren landscape out there as far as you can get solid corners even in the second round. So I think we can be solid there.
Well, and let me reword this so you don't feel as self-conscious. He said jokingly, you could make the argument that corner and defensive back in general is the overall bigger need, but the shortest line to improvement for the defense is that spot. That's why I say, yeah, exactly. Big most impact need. But let me ask you this, Toriano, and I'm a little bit off script here, but I'm going to ask as somebody who analyzes players and positions the way that you do. Listen, I've said on the show plenty, I'm a terrible scout. But hey, listen, I missed on Cam Newton. What can I tell you? Okay. So I said I was bad. I'm owning it. That's fair. I was still right about Bo Nix, and I think I'm going to be right about Michael Penix. I'll leave it at that. But as far as safety goes, I feel like the position itself has sustained a terrible drought. Now, granted, is it a drought or is it about the fact that you had a bunch in there at the same time, in the form of the Troy Polamalu's, in the form of I'm going to say John Lynch because I loved him. I'm forgetting the name of the dang Ravens safety who's amazing.
Oh, Ed Reed.
Yeah, Ed Reed, of course. Yeah, just that era of safety, and by in there, and you're getting during all that, you're also getting the tail end of Brian Dawkins, John Lynch, and just so many amazing names. Like Kanoy Kennedy nowadays would be great, and he was just kind of a guy in the day. So, but both you guys are out there. Who the hell's Kanoy Kennedy? So, with all that being said, the safety position in general is kind of a drought. What are your hopes to actually finding a good one in general, let alone in this class?
I think honestly, with the way that the safety position is being valued right now, I know a lot of guys will fall aside from maybe a Malachi Starks outside of the first round. You're going to have your choice between the second and fourth round, in my opinion. I think if you want a secure safety, you have to take them as early as the fourth round. There's plenty of guys that people aren't talking about between a Kevin Winston Jr., who was getting first round hype last year before he suffered an injury. I mean, Lathan Ransom, he's had an extensive injury history, which could really knock his stock down. But I think he's a potential starter at the position. Malachi Moore, who had hip injuries in high school before coming into college. So these guys, they really have to clear the medicals first. But I think once you see what they're able to do at the combine, and then you finally look at the tape, you're going to see some guys that are ready to step into position day one. So for me, I think it's a better safety class than we saw last year, but it's really dependent on what you want to address first. So say they go, D tackle, O line, corner, receiver. You got to go get a safety then. So whether it's a Makuba, who I think deserves to go early day 2, if he falls, or Kevin Winston Jr. falls, even a Jalen Reed, the other safety out of Penn State, there's plenty of guys in this draft that could come in and start at either safety spot.
So as the Greek in the room and being a bit of a philosopher, this is where I joke about closing the trap on you and having you answer your own question as to why guard doesn't get picked so quickly. After all, with the rundown you just gave us, that's a perfectly legitimate path to skipping out, accidentally, albeit on guard, right?
Yeah, I would say you go D line, O line, corner, receiver. That's how I would attack it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
so whether that's a tackle that moves the guard or a guard.
No, I got you. I got questions on how they're going to look at it, because the coaches generally aren't looking at it like, hey, I want to fill this position and this position and this position. It's always going to end up being coming down to the tiers of players. And all right, we got this bucket of players, and is this guy so much better than this other player that we're going to kind of go that route? But I get the general idea as far as, hey, this is how you see the most urgency where you think we need to get it filled. But I personally do think this Jacksonville Jaguars front office is going to kind of fill some of those holes in free agency and just kind of fill in those gaps at whatever spots they kind of need to. But I'm with you, bro.
Yeah.
When you said Jalen Reed, when you said Ransom, I'm like, and then Kevin Winston Jr. Yeah, that's it. Like there's a lot of guys at the top, but I also don't know that the Jaguars are necessarily going to invest in a safety that early. But if they do, I'm not I'm not mad about it. But those guys at the back end, when you're talking the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, like I'm here for that. I don't care if they want to double dip. I'd be absolutely fine with that. Like I think they just got to secure the back end of this roster of the defense specifically, and give Campanelli a chance to kind of cook. Give him a chance to do what he really wants to do with his roster, and don't do him like you did Ryan Nielsen, and kind of make this man run the defense that he wants to run, but don't got the guys, don't got the hoes, don't got the dogs to run the defense he's trying to run. So yeah,
Well, look here. The only reason Nielsen did the way he did is because Caldwell did the way he did, right? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
they all kind of ran. They all were who they were as far as how they ran their defenses, and they all were not given the guys that they needed to run the types of defenses that they wanted to run. And they were imperfect. Both of them were imperfect, Nielsen and Caldwell. But
I mean,
Trent was the problem.
Maybe they were who we thought they were, but they didn't get let off the hook. See what I did there? With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump to a couple comments here. And of course, referencing the defensive tackle spot, Timmy Mason and Mason lawsuit. See, this should have been a drinking game. That's twice you've already had to hit the bottle. Talking about the law firm of the future there with a sprinkle of Eric Armstead. And the reason why I like that is because at Armstead's current age, I think that's the best move for him as a rotational piece, kind of like Ndamukong Suh and Fletcher Cox were for the previous Eagles Super Bowl team to the one that won this past year. Hef jumps in. Jalen Rivers late. How do you feel about that, Toriano? He's down.
I agree. I was definitely talking to another fan about this. I think it was last week. He brought up him being a top tackle in the draft, and I said, I think he's better at guard. I think you plug this guy in at right guard, he's got some real potential there. I believe he's about 6'5". He's got the feet, he's got the hands, he's got experience at the University of Miami playing ACC ball. I don't know if he can play center, but I don't see him as a center. I see him more as the guard, and I think really the hand usage is on point for him. So I would definitely like to see him potentially work out as a guard.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at Timmy Devil here, I thought this was interesting. I think Aaron Charles Donald, you forgot the C, Timmy. Aaron Charles Donald really shaped Gladstone's way of thinking of the defensive line. I hope so. First, you have that epic talent, and then you got to fill the gap as successfully as they did. Yeah, I would. I ain't even looking for you guys to say anything about that. I just wanted to have that. That was mine. Sorry. Anyways,
with him mentioning that, what would you guys think if Walter Nolan fell to the second round?
I mean,
Like say we do go corner at 5, right?
so say Travis
Whether
Hunter
it's
falls.
Hunter or Johnson, right?
Yeah.
If Walter Nolan is there at 36, are you running to the podium?
Oh, and let's put in option 3 too. If they go Ted McClellan, and of course, then after that, Travis throws things and takes a large sip because he doesn't want that to happen. But let's say they go that route, too.
Yeah.
So that's on the table as well.
Well, my problem right now is trying to figure out what exactly Campanella is going to do with this defense. Because originally I was like, I really felt like they needed to get a bigger guy. They needed to get a guy who was actually able to either be a true nose tackle or play somewhere from that 0 technique to that 3 technique. I wanted someone that had a little bit more weight to them, and I like Nolan, but he's a lot like Mason in very many ways, and you're talking about the same kind of weight kind of situation. It's not a line in the sand moment for me for sure, because I think you can absolutely coach around it. My only concern is that I don't want this team to be ran on, and I don't want them to be weak up front. Like, so that's kind of what I wanted, someone that was a little bit bigger. Like, again, if you can get Mason Graham, I mean, of course, because then you're getting in that 215, 220 range, whatever you want to call it, realistically after an NFL weight training program. Whereas with Nolan, you're still getting a guy who's going to be better able to kind of get you that pressure. But I don't know how he's going to hold up as far as those double teams when you start getting into those bigger centers, bigger guards. That's kind of my question.
I mean, that's the thing too. This defensive tackle group is so much better at stopping the run, going back to it, albeit when healthy, not when he's playing with X ankle, whatever constant injury he had. But a healthy Falaransu Fatukasi was enough to really move the needle and stop the run. And I like the guy. He's not a world beater. So I see where Travis is going with the size. But man, listen, when it falls in your lap like that, especially after you were silly enough to take a flyer or somebody else was smart enough to beat you to Mason Graham, how the hell do you say no?
I got you, but it's just so close to that Kenneth Grant range that it just makes me it makes my butt itch. Like it's just right there, bro. Like that's the problem.
You got the lemon booty with it. Okay. No one's mad at you. All right. He didn't ask a softball question. He came on here as a guy with his own YouTube channel, Toriano Knows Ball, and asked you a good question. We're giving the man an answer. That's all that's happening here. How was that plug, Toriano? You did that.
I appreciate it. I like it.
I'll just show you how we do it on this show. So when you're on again, you know when the bell jumps.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm really hoping the Jaguars try to. I really hope, I do hope that they are truly about what they're talking about as far as the combine. For those who haven't seen all the different conversations between Gladstone, between Liam. They do that whole that whole Les Snead thing where he's never saying I'm comfortable where I am in the draft. Like he's always talking about trading back. Whether or not he trades up or trades back, it's going to happen. But he's always talking about it. James Gladstone has been kind of doing the same thing on his combine row, and most I don't want to trade back. I'm like, no. If they want to trade back into that 12 to maybe even 13 range in the draft, I am absolutely ecstatic about it because I want all the bites at the apple in this bad boy.
Yeah, we've talked about that too on the show. You and I are both in the camp of trading the pick if there's no Mason Graham at this point. But let's have him preach to the choir. Let's hear it from the man.
There's a lot of variables that go into that, and there are a ton of different charts that we'll utilize in order to find the best options for us if they present themselves. But I think an increased volume of draft capital is what we'll be hunting up. Obviously, we already have that currently, and more at-bats is not going to be a bad thing.
We said bites of the apple. He said at-bats. At least ours sounds like it's in the correct sport. I mean, although, granted, in Gladstone's case, he's as handsome as a baseball player, so we'll leave it at that. That's it. Wow, I said another man.
Let that man cook. I mean, we talking about apples, but whatever. Let that man go.
You can cook with apples? Hello?
We can make apple pie.
That's right. Hey, listen, what are we trying to avoid? Turnovers. Boom. Hey.
Wow.
You want to make food jokes? Or you want to make food jokes, tiny man?
All right. So so we have a few things because I don't know. Toriano, how do you feel about this? Let me rephrase it. Not the top of the class, but how do you feel about the depth of this quarterback class when you know the Jaguars don't necessarily have a quarterback under contract right now behind Trevor Lawrence? Like, are you looking to have that filled in free agency? Are you thinking about, all right, one of these later round, dart throws, we'll say, for these quarterbacks? How are you feeling about this?
I have felt that I've been of the premonition that we could do both. I've looked at the free agency options. A lot of people that I've talked to have said, hey, maybe Jameis could be that guy. I know he's not a starting caliber quarterback right now, but to me, he's a top end backup. If Trevor were to get hurt, he could get you 2 touchdowns, Not saying that we want to see Trevor get hurt again, but this is a guy that could go in a game. He might make a bad play here and there, but any backup quarterback is bound to give you a bad play here and there. So if he's the 36th best quarterback in the league, I'd rather take the top end backup. And I would like to take a bite at the apple in the 6th or 7th round, especially if a guy like Tyler Shaw falls and it isn't really heralded up in the combine like people are saying he might be. So if there's a guy, especially like a Kyle McCord, I like Max Brosmer. I like these guys. So if they're there in the 6th or 7th round, even bring me a UDFA. I'd like to see them surround Trevor with some guys that can grow with him and still be able to kind of help him manage the game the same way that we see other teams get veteran quarterbacks. We just watched Jaden Daniels rely on Marcus Mariota in the playoffs. So
that's bad.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
You're not wrong.
You just named 2 of my guys. So you named Jameis, and for me, if nothing more than the entertainment factor, I'm here for that all day.
Yeah, the entertainment factor alone, like he got more views than being on TV. Then he got more views online with his clips. I think it was 127 million views accumulated. Like this guy is must-see TV. Like still.
See, I mean, here's the thing. You got to bring that up, Toriano. Like he's over there with beignets and I got diabetes and I took that personally.
Jeez.
Oh yeah. The beignet bit was funny.
Kyle McCord is my guy because I think he's going, but I also don't know that he's going to be dropping like I think he's going to rise in this process because when people start seeing his tools and in this offseason, unfortunately, that discount that folks thought they were going to get when the season ended, it's kind of going to evaporate. But he is also my other guy. So when you said his name, I'm just like clapping, like, okay, yeah. We are definitely on the same page with that. Bringing in the third guy and just kind of let them fight out in camp and figure out what happens. Carry 3 on the roster.
At that point, you carry 3, or you have a guy on the practice squad.
Okay.
Fair enough, man. So yeah, we're overtime already. Thanks to the good conversation and some awesome comments there in the group from you guys, as per usual. But there are 2 things that I got to throw at you first before I let you go here, Toriano. First of all, I don't know if you've seen our conspiracy theory episodes. And by conspiracy theory, let's be honest, it was me instead of my backwards cap putting on a tinfoil hat and tracking the road to success of how either Travis Hunter or Ashton Jeanty gets drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, while all 3 of us in this room probably think that Jeanty does not get drafted 5th, Travis Holmes and I both are to blame for the best line to get Ashton Jeanty, and that's obviously if the Jags trade back. So, if they were to trade back, what do you think is the lowest pick that they could get Jeanty?
I think the signature spot would be if Shedeur falls to 5, right? You trade with Dallas. I think if you get down to 12, I think 12 is the sweet spot. Like nobody would be. They might slam the table similar to how we saw Gibbs go, but I mean, if you do your thing in free agency, I would not be opposed, and especially if ETN is traded during that period.
Ooh, so you
never
believe
know.
that's a possibility? You think that's
I think the dominoes have to line up. If your ducks are in a row, and say for instance, like for me, Like I've already been working on my mock off season. So say, for instance, you walk away with a Tadaro Slayton at defensive tackle, right? You walk away with a Trayvon Morig and a Paulson Adebo at free safety and corner, respectively. And then you get an edge 3 and a backup quarterback. Doesn't matter who you name. If you walk away with those 5 things, you could easily take Genty, trade down, take Genty, and take a guard in the second round.
I mean, if you trade him down,
I would not be mad.
Depending on what you get in that trade down, you may
if you get an extra second.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah,
that's why
you get an extra second. You might,
Lord,
because you would need that extra piece to address something defensively that you need. I agree with you on that. And I mean, granted, it implies that they're holding back at the receiver spot, which I'm not big mad at. I mean, if you could mention a position in the NFL right now that's the easiest to stopgap, I would say it's receiver today. Am I saying it's easy? No, I'm just saying that's how much talent there is at the spot. Also, it would be nice for 30 seconds if somebody would stay friggin' healthy. There's that, But
nah, man. But I'm like, this team, if you can scheme better than the last, I believe that Liam will be able to simply move guys around and scheme in a better way than the 2024 Jacksonville Jaguars did. Because frankly, Doug did a better job scheming in the 2022 season than they did in the 2023 and 2024 seasons, as far as moving guys around, as far as motion, as far as just using play action, all those things. So like those basic things that we saw just even in the second half of last season, they had to do it. They didn't have a choice but to do it. But when they didn't have a choice but to do it, they did the things that they should have been doing all season. So that's just like that. Go ahead.
Was it 22 when we coined pencil whip?
Yeah, because they were doing such a good job pencil whipping teams, and then they just stopped doing it. It's like I don't know. They got on cruise control. I don't know what happened, bro, but it happened.
And I mean, when you lose a passing game coordinator, you never hire another one.
That's a factor. He's not wrong. I would also offer that if your protection is obliterated, how the hell do you draw up plays that require protection?
F that. I'm sorry.
I can't take your facts, Kyle. It ruins my narrative.
I agree on some levels. Yes, I agree, but also, nah, man, they got away from running crossers, like just that basic thing.
Joking aside, they really did.
We had this argument with I say argument. We had this conversation with Dan Griffiths when he was on the show, and he's good at stats. That's what the man does on Action Sports Jacks. He shows you the data, and he's like, dude, they were like whatever it was, the numbers are. And I'm sorry, I don't have them on me right now, but
I think he went from 10th in 2022, and then 31st 2023, 32nd 2024. I remember the post.
There's the KB from Knowing Ball. That's what it is, y'all. That's what it is. Have it in the comments.
There you go.
The comments coming from downtown. Look at that. Belfer Hep. How about that?
And I'm looking at the other part of it. Yeah. And Daniel Griffiths was like, hey, 44% of the Jaguars targets were outs and hitches, which means no yak, which means it's all quick. But the problem is none of it's quick and none of it's crossers. And they got away from that, unfortunately. For whatever reason in 2024, they got away from that. And that was like one of the main staples in their offense. And that's what gives me confidence that Liam, who's someone who does the same thing, will see that and just be like, no, this is an easy fix. Fix the run game, run more crossers. Ta-da! Efficient offense. More space. That's all you need. That's it. Space and efficiency.
I just thought I haven't done a wapa for a pencil whip in about a year and a half. That just dawned on me. That used to be the thing we did every week. Wapa. Well, it's back. It's back. So much is back.
So I think sometimes you can get a little too close to the stuff, too close to the data, too close to the information, and you might lose yourself in that process. And that's kind of what I think just happened to the Doug Peterson offense. And that's why I do have confidence that Liam will be able to kind of revamp this thing. And he may not even necessarily have to add another receiver, at least high in the draft. Like I do expect them to add one. I just don't know that it has to. Like again, we've talked about Savion Williams ever since he destroyed UCF, and it's pissed me off. But I can root for him now. I can do this. Yeah, you got Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. You got Jaden Higgins. You got a lot of guys who you can get in that second, maybe even third round range, depending on what they have as far as the holes are concerned. Like there's a lot of guys who can make a dent in this roster right now.
Yeah. I want to show Timmy mentioned Horton in the comments earlier.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, I like Horton.
So
for Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant, let's go. I'm sorry, Duval Pat.
Jalen Noel.
Jalen Noel is a player, dude. Listen.
Nah, he's legit.
The other piece. True or false, Toriano?
Mm-hmm.
The Jags need both of the top quarterbacks, of course, obviously we're referring to Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, which Shedor's not throwing. Who cares? Watch the tape.
Yeah. Watch the tape.
You'll get more out of the tape for sure, in my opinion. Anyways, hell, I watched it in person, black and gold banneret at the bounce house. In order for Travis Hunter to be acquired in the 5th round, both quarterbacks have to go
pick 5
in the previous 4.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I agree.
That's my theory.
True. That's true. To me, they have to go. Obviously, they have to go in the top 3. The Patriots aren't taking a quarterback. I mean, any combination, whether it's somebody trading up within the top 3, it has to happen. Like, in order for somebody to fall, whether it be a Mason Graham or a Travis Hunter, if you want Travis Hunter, you better be rooting for these quarterbacks to do well. That's how ultimately that's what it is.
No, that's a good take. Here's the thing. If Belichick were still coaching in New England, I would think it's a surefire thing that he passes on Hunter because of the media cavalcade, right? This is the same dude. I mean, Patriot way, blah, blah, blah. I ain't got to explain that. However, considering the new regime change and all that in there, I feel like there's a good shot that they may take Travis Hunter, but they need other positions more. I think Mason Graham's a bit more dangerous, but all of that. Now, let me leave you with this last piece, because you're kind of required to do it when you bring in a dude that has nose ball on his name. What is the player? What is the position? Who is the guy that the Duval Devout aren't talking about but need to be thinking about in their assessment of their team needs?
It depends on what position you want, because I could give you a guy between all 3 positions. I mean, can I give you one of each?
What I'm going to do? Stop. Yes, please. No, make me more ignorant. Leave stuff off. Let's go.
I mean, at guard, if you're looking for a guy, I think we saw the comment here. I think Jackson Slater is a big time potential player. I think, looking at guys that have come from that level, you've had a couple guys that have turned into stars. I think he has the upside. I think he has the athleticism. I think he's a younger guy as well, coming into the draft. I think he's going to turn 22, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of upside, a lot of potential. If you're going to go corner, I think Noel Williams is a guy that's not being talked about a lot, coming out of California. Lockdown, man coverage corner, great instincts, ball hawk. I think the guy, I want to say he's 6'1", 185. He's got to put a little bit of weight on.
I love
but he's really good, really sticky in coverage. And if we want to talk receiver, my receiver that nobody's talking about is probably going to be Ricky White, and coming out of UNLV. We talk about him a little bit in the group chats, but I don't really see anybody putting him in their mock drafts, anybody really putting the film on Twitter or on X, if you want to call it X. This is not a guy that a lot of people are talking about in the community, and I think he deserves to be talked about. So if you go on YouTube tonight after this and watch any film on anybody, watch Ricky White, please, out of UNLV.
All right, man. Perfect. Listen, that's exactly what I was looking for. Excellent home run there by you. Travis, I don't know if you have anything immediately to add any of that. I just saw a lot of head bobbing from you. I mean, did somebody drop a beat, or are you agreeing with everything?
I enjoy when someone's telling me to keep an eye out for diamonds in the rough. Like I'm here for that always. And not to mention, I'm kind of looking at the different tight ends, and unfortunately, because that's where my mind immediately goes, and I don't know that there's anyone that I really wanted past Mason Taylor. And unfortunately, that's kind of the end of where I'm looking at. You're talking, basically end of the second round, early third round kind of range. I don't know if you know of any tight ends who you think may be one of those solid potential options for the Jaguars, because again, we know we got Evan Ingram. We don't necessarily know if that's going to work out for the Jaguars offense as far as how Liam runs his offense and kind of wants his tight ends to be like pretty solid blockers. So if that doesn't work out, then we're looking at Brenton Strange and probably having to draft the guy, and that's kind of where my mind kind of started going. So that's why I'm looking at someone like Mason, but I don't know. All these Masons, it's Mason, and everybody named Mason this year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Masons in this class.
And people trying to build teams, you need Masons. Boom! Ha!
You
Dad
do.
jokes. So
if I were to say any two tight ends in any situation, so say for instance you keep Evan Ingram, I think a guy that you want is a Jackson Hawes out of Georgia Tech, or even a Luke Lachey out of Iowa. I mean, if you see a tight end coming out of Iowa, you take him, in my opinion. Jackson Hawes, thank you. You know ball.
You know ball. Early, he's here for you late. That's perfect.
You know ball. And then if you move on from an Evan Ingram and you're looking for that move tight end, that kind of guy that can play outside, slide, and move around, and really be an extra wide receiver on the field, if you will, it's Oronde Gadsden. I have us taking him in my upcoming mock draft that'll be on the YouTube shortly. Oronde Gadsden, the second, coming out of Syracuse. I mean, this guy's a former wide receiver from Florida. I believe he's 6'5" and moves like he's 6'1". This kid, he's had a Liz Frank injury, so we've kind of seen him kind of make a comeback. But the kid's phenomenal. I mean, he's been a preseason All-American for the ACC. I think he's got all the talent in the world. So if he's able to play for a guy that's creative like this with Cohen, I think you have a lot of success.
Anybody who's wondering if you come back from a Liz Frank fracture and make a difference, that painting is based on a photo after a Liz Frank fracture. So there you go. There you go. But personal proof for those who are listening to the pod, that was me flashing my Aaron Evans original painting of me from my pro playing games. There you go. Man, listen, you dropping them dimes like you in a mint or something, and I'm all about that live, Toriano. Unfortunately, we're in that place where we got to wrap it up. We got 18 extra minutes with you. Who's going to complain? Tell the world, my guy.
I appreciate you guys for having me. You can follow me on all socials as well as YouTube at Toriano Knows Ball. That's TORIONO. You may see it displaying on screen as well. I'm on TikTok, I'm on X, I'm on Instagram. So I'm very active on all platforms, especially on X. If you guys love mock draft content or love talking about the Jags, give me a follow.
Hey, fair enough, man. Great job tonight. Definitely appreciate you. I'll say this, and I mean no disrespect, but it's something for you to think about. You're a young man. You may not have a family like I do, but I can't be out here on these streets trying to say that I'm on X. People get the wrong idea when a family man says that. Travis Holmes, tell the world.
You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. It's just as you see it right here. More importantly, you can follow me on BigCatCountry.com and all the articles that we're kind of spitting out for you guys. We've got combine coverage, we got pressers, breakdowns that nobody else is giving you. Your top 10 takeaways for Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. Like, come on, man. Favorite the site. Stop playing. But yeah. BigCatCountry.com. We got you covered there. All the socials, Travis D. Holmes, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. Blue Sky, MySpace. I'm sure that site is still up somewhere. And it's Spill Mob everywhere. Travis D. Holmes. Just follow me, man. Let's chop it up. Let's talk some football. Where can you be found, Kyle?
First of all, in the spirit of continuing to make jokes about paraphernalia, when I hear James Gladstone, it sounds like somebody who's enjoying reefer. Am I the only one? Anyway.
It feels like he should. It feels like he should be on Breaking Bad. Like that's absolutely a character.
Yeah.
You can hear Hank saying, James Gladstone, dude. That's a good drop. Thank you, Travis. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. Spill if you're feeling frisky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network, covering the Orlando Magic and your Jacksonville Jaguars, Duval Devout. Also, my work covering UCF with the Black and Gold Banneret, as well as on the Black and Gold Banneret Night Shift YouTube channel. You'll find the Night Shift podcast there as well. And of course, what I do here with the Duval Dive, get a hold of your life. Like and subscribe. And for goodness sake, if your life's together, check out Toriano Knows Ball on YouTube with that upcoming mock draft. You will obviously not be disappointed, because here's the thing. He can never play receiver. You know why? He'd be dropping facts left and right. There you go. You thought I was going to disrespect Toriano, didn't you? Anyways.
Yes, sir.
So, for TorianoKB, and the KB is for Nose Ball, for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, and for all the excellent commenters questioning and supporting in a very healthy conversational way in the comments. Rare on the internet, let's be honest. Thank you for that as well. But until next time, my friends, class dismissed. Fellas,